Please join us in the playing of Salute to the Armed Forces and Rise if the branch of the military.
said I was talking about Mr. Durbin yesterday and telling him how much I was looking forward to the players with them. And this year, the band and choir switched it up a little bit and chose to perform simultaneously. And I said I'm really glad that they did because it's fantastic. So thank you very much for the band and the choir. Before we begin on today's program, I want to make a couple of special thank yous. We have a very couple of very special guests. And before we begin on today's program, first I just want to give thank yous to everybody who's in the building, faculty, for staff. Thank you for taking the special I want to thank the students. I look out here and I was telling our guest speaker, Sean Donald, here today, that I do believe that there is a genuine care for remaining with Veterans Day. As I look at you all here this morning, I do feel that. I feel that in my heart in this community. So thank you to the students. We have members of the American Legion here this morning. I want to say thank you for being here. They will be performing taps. We have members of the Livingston County War Museum. We work closely with them, so thank you for making the time here this morning. All community members that are present here to come enjoy this program. And also thank you to a couple of students who will be presenting later on today. And the work that you see in the banners out in the Commons, they'll tell you a little bit about the meaning and the history behind that. So thank you to Madison Franklin and Abby Rabb and all the students of FFA, Mr. Faber, who have made that program successful over the years. Thank you. Please give them all. I apologize that I wasn't aware ahead of time, but we have a very honored guest here today, Mr. Art Leach, 105 years old. Mr. Leach was a fighter pilot in the Pacific in World War II. Mr. Leach was a guest speaker in this program, I think, 3 years ago. Some of you may have been students, maybe you were freshmen at that point, you would remember him up here speaking. Mr. Leach is a recipient of the Distinguished Flying Cross, which is an air medal for valor for actions fighting in the Pacific. Please give him a special round of applause. I also have another special honored guest for us here today. Some of you may have been here, heard him speak at our distinguished alumni assembly 2 years ago, I believe this was. Colonel Schaefer recently retired in August. Is that correct, sir? Recently retired after over 30 years as an officer of the U.S. Army. He was a graduate in 1991, sitting right here in PTHS. I believe went to Southern Illinois University before spending over 30 years as a commissioned officer in the U.S. Army. He served his time, just a couple up there, in the famed 10th Mountain Division. Some of you may have heard of that, as well as recently in Colorado Springs in the U.S. Space Command. Please give again a round of applause. Introducing our guest speaker, Sean Donnelly is a graduate of Warren Township High School, class of 1999. Warren Township is the Chicago region. And he was a former soldier of the U.S. Army, serving from 2003 to 2006. Now, since I teach history, I understand that we don't always understand the context. In 2003, in the aftermath of 9/11, the United States invaded Iraq to overthrow the regime of Saddam Hussein and to locate alleged weapons of mass destruction. Although successful in ridding the world of the evils of Saddam Hussein, which really was evil, Iraq quickly deteriorated into efforts of counterinsurgencies as militias and foreign fighters fled into the country. Iraq became the chosen battleground of Al-Qaeda, who you should know as responsible for 9/11. As the United States continued to bring democracy to the country through stability and security of its citizens while engaging in combat with the insurgent fighters. For most of the next several years, fighting in Iraq occurred mostly in urban areas, so that's in cities you may have heard of, such as Ramadi, Fallujah, Rajab, Baghdad, just a few. Insurgents fought door to door in heavy combat, frequent cyber attacks, and the use of roadside bombs, IEDs. As a combat engineer attached to the 2nd Brigade of the 10th Mountain Division, Sean provided mobility and increased survivability through continuous route clearance missions in the western Baghdad area of operations. This extended from Baghdad out west to the city of Abu Ghraib in Anbar province. Anbar was a hotbed of fighting for several years there. Route clearance, well, that means hunting for IEDs, roadside bombs, to clear safe routes for both civilians and troops to travel. It's an extremely dangerous mission, and the enemy became highly skilled in planting and hiding IEDs during a very, very violent time in the Iraq War. After leaving the Army, Sean attended Illinois State University, we would say, where I first met him as a political science course, with Dr. Ken Panfilio. I actually had to look that up yesterday. And we shared mutual friends of student veterans. Sean received his diploma with a degree in social work before meeting his wife while living in Chicago. Together, they spent the last 8 years starting a family together, 2 children in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, before relocating back to Illinois to more closely raise their children. Please welcome guest speaker Sean Donnelly.
Good morning, Pontiac High School. I'm really grateful to be here today. Like Brad said, we've known each other for almost 20 years now, and when a friend asks for a favor, I have a hard time saying no. Really quick, before we get started, how many people here have a family member that served in the armed forces? That's almost the whole school. So you all are very familiar with the sacrifices that families make. I think serving is probably the hardest on the families. It's hard for us, but we have fun. Thank you to your families, and thank you to this community. I got to meet Mr. Estes earlier, as well as Art and Brad spoke about. If it wasn't for the guys that went before us, they had it much harder than we did, and I'm eternally grateful to you, gentlemen. And Colonel Schaefer, 10th Mountain, I served with General Milley, who's our brigade commander, climbing warrior. So I've been married with my wife and I for about 8 years now. And we have 2 kids. Like Brad was saying, we just moved back to Illinois. Illinois has great veterans benefits. That's a big driving force for why we moved, and then also raise our kids by their family. And as I was preparing for this, I thought I would talk about teamwork and cool stuff that we did in the Army. My kids reminded me that nobody's better at making mistakes than me. And so I figured I'd share some stories about mistakes that I made along the way, and hopefully you all understand that we all make mistakes, parents, principals. I know Brad's made, Mr. Christian's made plenty of them. And that's perfectly normal, and we're all a lot stronger than we think we are. One thing that the Army does really well, the Marine Corps, Navy, when you do something, you then get together as a group and do an after-action review, and you look at what worked, what didn't work, and you adjust and you move on. You don't really focus too much on the mistake or who made the mistake, but you focus on what you can do to do better. So that's where I want to go with this today. Like Mr. Christie was saying, I grew up in Gurnee and I graduated from Pontiac Township High School. I grew up around basketball, but I didn't really play much past 6th grade. My buddy's dad really summed up my basketball career by saying that I'm tall and I have bricks for hands. But in 1999, my high school won their tournament here at Pontiac High School. And we later went on to take second in state. So I know how prestigious your tournament is. And I know it's a lot of work for your community, so thank you all for hosting that tournament. When Mr. Christie and I met in college, veterans kind of had like a sixth sense for each other. So we became quick friends. I knew I could work on a project with him and we would get the work done. And now we've known each other for the better part of 20 years, and you're really lucky to have Mr. Christie here at your school. One thing I learned from the Army is that I thrive when I'm surrounded by people that are smarter than I am. And Brad, Mr. Christie, thank you for letting me tag along for the last 20 years. In high school, for me, I was kind of awkward and I wasn't really good at high school, but I took in the information well. I remember I had a lot of missing and incomplete work. Does anybody else have a lot of missing work right now? I get really behind, but then somehow I put it all together, put a bow on it, and I did well enough to have pretty decent grades. My dad always told me that if it wasn't for the last minute, I wouldn't get anything done. And it really frustrated my parents because they knew I should be working on something, but instead of doing that, I was busy with football, volleyball. Once I got my driver's license, I was busy working, playing with friends. But soon my friends went to college and I couldn't afford to go to university, so I stayed home in a junior college. And that lasted about 3 semesters. And it was then that the missing and incomplete work really caught up with me and I failed out of community college. So naturally I did what any reasonable 19-year-old guy would do. I moved to Florida with a buddy. I think I had $1,000. He lasted 8 months. And I was really determined. I'd already dropped out of community college. I didn't want to leave Florida without accomplishing something. So I adapted and I found a new roommate. He wasn't the best. He would never pay bills. That's a whole other story. But then 9/11 happened and everything changed in my life. And everything changed here in our country. About a year later, we were getting ready to go into Iraq. And my 2 closest friends that I grew up playing football with, we were talking about enlisting. One enlisted in the Marine Corps. The other thought that his fastest path to combat would be to be a chemical NCO, so he went that route in the Army. And I looked around and I was like, geez, I've got really nothing in my name. I was really poor. I was eating ketchup spaghetti, terrible food. So I decided to join the Army. I called my grandpa. He was dying at the time. He was a World War II veteran. And I remember calling him from the payphone using a calling card to tell him that I joined the Army. And he said, Sean, that'll give you some direction in life. And he died 2 days later. While I was joining the Army, I got to fall back on my great high school education, and I tested really well, so I could pick any job the Army had to offer. I could do nuclear work, I could be a plumber, mechanic, but somehow I chose to be a combat engineer. I was dead set to do military intelligence, but combat engineer sounded fun. They offered me a $2,000 signing bonus, and I was really poor at that time. Combat engineers use C4 to blow stuff up, so I was like, all right, let's do this. I considered that a mistake because really I didn't learn any transferable skills from when I got out of the Army, but I did get to have more fun than I imagined. By my count there, at like 21 years old, I made 3 pretty serious life mistakes. Didn't really commit myself to high school or college, and then I chose a job that I couldn't do anything with once I got out of the Army. In basic training, these bricks for hands turned into bricks for feet, and I broke my ankle on day 0 at 4:30 in the morning. Drill sergeants chasing me around with garbage cans and megaphones. Rolled my ankle on a sidewalk, ended up in the hospital. And typically at that time, the Army would put you in like a medical unit and make you sit there and wait until you healed. But I was determined. I did not want to be in basic training any longer than I had to be. And I begged to stay, and the drill sergeants let me stay with the caveat that I had to do everything except for the running. So the pounding, gas chamber, all the push-ups and sit-ups you can imagine. I think there was a few days where we did push-ups and sit-ups from sunrise until sunset. I ended up graduating on time, and I did that 8 weeks later. I did that 2-mile run in 13 minutes, and there was a lot of guys that were excited that I hadn't been running. Fast forward, I got stationed in California, and there we were in the desert. We would train brigades to go to Iraq. So it's a pretty amazing laser tag. You've got fast-moving jets, and tanks, and Bradleys, and I got to go out in the field and train all the time. My family was really happy about that because we were a training unit. There was no mission for us in Iraq or Afghanistan. But the Army always has other plans, and we came down on orders to go to Iraq with Tom Mountain with Colonel Schaefer's unit. During that time, the Army was really forcing me to abandon my instinct to put things off. I had a great squad leader. His name was Sergeant Johnson. He had a newborn baby, but he was responsible for our little fire team. He put a lot of time into training us. He pushed me harder than anybody had ever pushed me in my life. He really didn't accept failure. One thing that we did a lot of medical training in the barracks after hours. So the barracks were like dorms, everybody lives there. And we would run through different injuries and how to treat that injury, how to stabilize a patient. And we do this until like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Well, Sergeant Johnson was our first casualty in Iraq when he was wounded by a roadside bomb. And our squad reacted perfectly. It was like a choreographed dance. I wouldn't say we were as good as we required earlier, but we were pretty sharp, and we were able to get him bandaged up and medevac, and within an hour he was at a hospital. And he went on to serve 25 years and became a brigade command sergeant major. He was responsible for about 1,500 soldiers. So that kind of goes back to me going against my own natural instinct to put stuff off, kind of breaking through that and learning how to dedicate myself to something and how to benefit from later. And I always felt like it was Sergeant Johnson's work with us after hours before we went to Iraq was prophetic. And he made sure we all knew what to do, and then we came together to help him. We had been in Iraq for like 10 days at that point. It was very early in our deployment. But that's the way the Army works. You look around and take care of your friends. When Mr. Christie calls and asks you to do something, you help him. And I hope you all help out your friends. In Iraq, combat engineers cleared roads. We looked for roadside bombs, and we looked for those that would put it in roadside bombs. insurgents were really good at hiding the roadside bombs everywhere. Iraq doesn't have a garbage day like we do here, so it's really like looking for garbage in a sea of garbage. We didn't have any fancy tools early on in the war. We had our optics and our eyes and our feet and our hands, and some mine detectors. Mostly we find them when they blow up. We probably found about 20% before they blew up, and that was considered good. One night we decided that we'd sit on this rooftop at an intersection where we were getting attacked pretty frequently, and this was hilarious. We had 4 soldiers going in at night, walking up. We had machine guns, radios, all our gear, extra batteries, some food. And we decided that we were going to climb each other to get up on this roof. And I don't know how we thought that was smooth. I think everybody in town knew we were there. About halfway through the night, I was trying to stay awake. I was eating a bag of peanut M&Ms and I had to go to the bathroom. And my sergeant, he says, just stay low and crawl to the back of the building. So I crawled back there, and there were stairs. We didn't take the time to survey the perimeter of this building and find out that there were stairs right there. So afterwards, we got back to our fundamentals and we knew that we had to make sure that we knew the area before we decided to put soldiers at risk in the building. But that could have been a colossal mistake. The next day, after we left in the morning, right around 10 o'clock in the morning, an IED blew up right in that intersection, roadside bomb. You know he's not a student because he keeps their phone on loud, right? So that roadside bomb, it didn't hurt anybody. Thankfully, nobody got hurt. Thankfully, we weren't attacked when we were on that rooftop. But we went back, we did an after-action review, and we knew that we had to make sure that we knew the area we were in. We thought we knew it well because we were there all the time, but they got complacent. And it's one of the mistakes we made overseas. I think about that broken ankle, the relentless training, the never-ending game of hide and seek that we played with the insurgents in Iraq. And the big thing that the Army taught me was to never quit. That mistakes happen and that we can all learn from them. We made it through that deployment. We had guys get hurt, but thankfully within my platoon, which is about a high school class of 30 people or so, nobody died. And many of the guys went on to serve long careers in the Army, and they credit their time on that first deployment with teaching them so much. Mistakes happen, it's okay. I kept making mistakes too. I went to college, I struggled. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Mr. Christie and I met in a history class for political science class. I thought I was going to be a history teacher. I quickly realized that there's no way I could read that much. And I wanted to help people, so I went into social work, I switched things up. Professionally, social work, I think I was making $10 an hour when I first got out of college. I was doing drug and alcohol counseling, and I was bartending at the same time. I was asked to either quit bartending or quit the drug and alcohol counseling by the director. So at that point in my life, I was like, I need to make some money, and that $10 an hour is not helping me out. So I pivoted and I got into sales. A friend of mine told me, it was a friend that Mr. Chris and I went to college with, she said, sales is social work. Instead of helping an individual, you're helping a business. And I've taken that approach to everything I've done, and I've been in sales now for about 15 years. There are many times in my life where I've been faced with adversity, but I really think because of all the mistakes I've made, I was able to get to where I'm at, able to keep learning. The Army gave me a lot of confidence that I'll get through whatever comes my way, and still I sit back and I wonder what makes me different than some of the folks that I know, that I've gone through combat with, question myself right now. See, in front of you all, it's nerve-wracking, right? And I catch myself thinking that I'm not very smart and things don't come naturally to me. If you ask anyone that knows me, I've always been the clumsy kid with bricks for hands. But the one big lesson from the Army was just don't quit. So my second go around in college at Illinois State, I committed myself to not missing classes. At some point, I was diagnosed with a brain injury and I was suffering with post-traumatic stress. A really great counselor taught me it's not post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a normal reaction to abnormal circumstance. When college felt harder than anything that I'd ever done, I thought back to that time with Son Johnson and all that training that we did, and I knew I could not quit on myself. I may not have fulfilled my potential when I was in high school or on my first try in college. I may not have chosen a job in the Army that gave me a skill where I could go out and start a plumbing business or a construction business or something like that, but I never gave in to that self-doubt. I think everybody has some self-doubt. I read about guys like Jordan, Kobe, and Giannis, and they all feel like imposters, and that drives them to work really hard. I try to show my kids every time I'm not sure of something, talk with them about what I'm not sure of, and let them know that I'm worried, but I'm going to try. So in closing, I just wanted to share one last thing that's really amazing about the military and about our armed forces is that if you look around this high school, you can see on the walls in the cafeteria there, that our military is made up of people that are just like you all. You have people that have no idea what they want to do. You have guys and girls that know exactly what they want to do. You have athletes, you have poets, musicians, you have hunters, and you have city folk. But whether you go to basic training in the Army or boot camp in Brad's Marines and Mr. Christie's Marines, the one thing that starts with is it brings everybody together and teaches us that when everyday people work together, we can really do remarkable things. Bandaging up Son Johnson and getting to see a doctor really quickly. That's probably one of the most remarkable things I've ever been a part of. And for me, it took sacrificing my desires to put things off. And probably the simplest way that I do that, and I still do it every day today, is that I convince myself that once I get these tasks done, then I can be lazy and procrastinate for longer. That's how I motivate myself. I'm very grateful for my time in the service and what it's brought to me. It brought me here to meet you all, to talk with you all. The Army's given me so much more than I ever expected. I'm very thankful for that. Thank you all for having me here today.
In the comments, you will see a number of banners with names and branches of the military on them. These individuals are all graduates of Pontiac Township High School and are currently serving as active or reserve members of the armed forces. These banners are meant to recognize these individuals and show our appreciation. This project was started in 2016 by Ryan Morrison and his junior year at PTHS. Ryan is currently a Sergeant E5 as a member of the Marine Special Operations Command, or MARSA, the Marine Special Forces. The bannars hang at PTHS during Veterans Day and then are distributed to hang throughout the community in constant recognition of their service. If you know of any PTHS graduate who is currently serving who does not have a banner, please reach out to us, Mr. Donald, or Dr. Faber. We would love to include them in the recognition. Ultimately, this project intends to show our servicemen and women their well-deserved welcome home once they conclude their service. We have that amazing privilege here.
Colonel Tim Schaefer retired September 1st, 2025, after over 30 years of active duty service in the United States Army. A native of Pontiac, Illinois, he graduated from Pontiac Township High School in 1991 and then received his commission as an Air Defense Artillery Officer from the Reserve Officer Training Corps program at Southern Illinois University in Brookdale. Over his 30-year career, he has served in multiple command, leadership, and joint assignments, from the smallest tactical level to the highest level of military command. His service took him around the world, serving our nation in over 48 different countries, to include combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and assignments in Korea, Germany, Italy, and Turkey. In 2023, Colonel Schaefer was inducted as a PTHS Distinguished Full-Time. Please help me welcome retired Colonel Schaefer with the presentation of his banner.
While the American Legion and members of the band get ready to tabs, Nevaeh Lee will read to you and teach you about the meaning of song tabs.
The powerful sound of a bugler playing taps is a call to remember those who gave their lives in the service of the United States. Born of a French bugle call, the melody we know as taps was rearranged and used during the Civil War as a call for lights out. In the late 1800s, the Army formally adopted the tune for use at military funerals and memorial services. Today, the 24 mournful notes comprising taps are played to commemorate the memory of members of all 5 branches of the armed forces: the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard. The final bugle call is a sign of respect and a tribute to those known and unknown.
listening to Sean talk today, learning about the meaning of Veterans Day, learning about the meaning of TAPS, seeing many local veterans. I hope you can reflect on the values that the day is about. Courage, leadership, selflessness, sacrifice of all those who have served and fought on behalf of this nation. Thank you to all PTH students. Thank you for showing respect, honoring the meaning of Veterans Day today. Thank you all who presented, performed during today's assembly. Thank you on behalf of all the members of the American Legion, High War Museum, all in attendance, our honored speakers, and to Sean. We wish a happy, well-earned retirement. Please give everybody. That concludes today's Veterans Day Assembly. When released, report to your first hour of class.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.